Brad Williams, Excel Prime. Be careful here what I'm talking about. We're going to use index match match. So that means we're going to deal with a column and we're dealing with a header. But make sure your header and your row, in other words, your column and row, are in sync. In other words, in this case, based on width and height, look up cost. And you may be looking up width, but you're actually looking up height. And you end up looking at height when it should be width. In other words, you're inverted, you're backwards. So just be careful in your thinking on how you lay this thing out. With that being said, we know we can add match to identify the row. And if you didn't recognize this, you can also use match to find the column. Make sure your column, F9, is in sync. Here's the layout. Index, we're going to have an array, and then we're going to have a row number, and then we have a column number. Most of the time, we just leave this out. It's just optional. You don't need the column. We're usually looking up for a row. But here, we have this column and row situation, and we want to find a price, an approximate match. The anatomy. You can look through the anatomy. Here, I'm just going to walk us through it. Here is our column. J5, lookup value, J5. J5, height. Height is recognized as our column. Look here, height C4, G4. Height, lookup array. Notice, now be careful here because we got all these different colors. And sometimes, and I applaud this most of the time, but here it's too busy. In this case, look here and match C4, G4, okay. And then you know the match type is 1, which is, if you forget, go down here, match type, match type 1, exact or smallest. Because we're looking in a range, we're never going to find an exact, well, we could find an exact match because we're using 150, 150. In most cases, you're going to want to make this as exact or next smallest. All right, we addressed the column issue. The row issue is J4, which is going to be width. That means we're looking at rows, not columns. Here, we're looking at J4, the width, name range width, B5 to B9. And we're going to have exact or next smallest. And then our index is going to be this internal part. C5 and C9 do not include the columns or the rows here. Make sure your array is clean. And in terms of its output, let's look at the row number, F9, 3. The column number, F9, is 2. Row number 3, 1, 2, 3, column 2. But what happened over here? You may get things backwards. You may put J5 that's height. We use J4. We're looking for the row number. You put J5 in here, indicates you're looking for columns. J4, and then our height and our width. You see we got them backwards? Our row is going to look like, well, let's look here. Index match, array, row number is going to be 2. So we have 100. We're going to have column number 9 is going to be 3. So 2, 3. We got them backwards. What we're looking for is 150, 150, and you're going to see right off the bat. And a lot of times we just look at that as, okay, I'm going to look at row 2 and row 3. You need to look at our height, and it says 200 in our answer. Our height is 150. We're going to look here at our row, and it's showing 100. What we're looking for is 150. The point of this exercise is pretty obvious. I hope you realize that. Be careful when you're doing this stuff. And it's vice versa. Here, you can see, I don't even want to go down that road, because index 300, we did something here, 2, 1. It's not important. Here, I just did it again, and I just put match in here just to show you width, height, width, going to be 3, width, 3, column, height, 2. I didn't put row or column. I want you to go by height and width. Width should be over here. Edit, cut, edit, paste. That's probably a little easier to comprehend. That way you don't look at width going, what are you talking about? Height and width. Practice this thing. If you run into this error, confirm your work by looking at height versus weight versus column versus row. Brad Williams, Excel Prime.